I first noticed her because of the way she carried silence. Everyone else on our street filled the air, dogs barking, kids shouting, doors slamming. But she moved through it like she didn't owe anyone a sound. Her name was Lila. 40-something, lived 2 doors down. I only learned her name a week after she started borrowing my newspaper by accident. That morning, it was cold enough to see your breath. I was sitting on the stoop with a mug of instant coffee and half a mind, scrolling through nothing. She stepped out in a gray sweater, hair tied back, holding the exact same mug I had. One of those cheap ceramic ones you get in pairs. You steal those from the same grocery promo I did? I asked. She smirked without looking at me. No, my ex did. I laughed, mostly to fill the space. She didn't. We kept running into each other after that. Laundry room, mailbox, the tiny convenience store near the corner where she always bought the same brand of tea. She had this quiet way of noticing things. The time I switched detergents, the day I stopped bringing my earbuds on walks. Once, she pointed out that I'd been folding my sleeves differently. I didn't know anyone saw me that closely. Sometimes I'd catch her looking at her phone like it had just said something cruel. Other times, she'd stand by her window late at night, staring into the dark parking lot, as if waiting for someone to come back. I never asked who. One evening, the rain started earlier than forecast. I'd just gotten home, wet from the shoulders down, when my power went out. The whole building went dim except for one flickering hallway light. Lila's window still glowed warm. I stood there for a minute, debating. Then I knocked. She opened the door halfway. The smell of rain and chamomile drifted out. Her hair was damp, falling out of its tie. She didn't seem surprised to see me. "I shouldn't let you in," she said. The way she said it. Not teasing, not firm. Just tired, like she'd already had the argument with herself and lost. I shrugged, pretending I wasn't shivering. "Then why's your door still open?" For a second, she didn't answer. Just stared, eyes moving from my wet jacket to the mug I was still stupidly holding. Then she stepped back. "Come in. Just until the lights come back." Her apartment smelled like cedar and something faintly sweet, maybe the tea. A record player hummed low in the background. On the counter, an open book, a phone face down, a half-written grocery list that said milk, bread, batteries. I didn't say much. Neither did she. We sat opposite each other at her small dining table, listening to the rain build and break against the windows. She poured tea into my mug without asking. I noticed her hands, faint lines near the knuckles, nails clean but uneven. She noticed me noticing and looked away first. She asked how long I'd lived here. I said 8 months. She said she'd been here 11 years. The math between us felt loud. When the lights flickered back on, she didn't move to turn them off again. "I should probably head back," I said. She nodded, but didn't stand. I reached for my mug, hesitated, then left it there. Maybe on purpose. By the time I got to my door, I realized I could still smell her tea on my hands. That night, my phone buzzed once. Unknown number. "You forgot your mug." I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back, then deleted everything I wrote. I didn't go back for the mug right away. I told myself it didn't matter. It was just a cheap thing from a grocery store promo. But 3 days later, I saw it again through her kitchen window, sitting clean on her counter like it belonged there. That night, I knocked again. This time, she opened the door faster, like she'd been expecting it, but didn't want to look like she had. "You came for the mug," she said, half smiling. "Yeah, it's sentimental." She raised an eyebrow. "Since when?" "Since you kept it." She laughed quietly, the kind of laugh that doesn't need a reason. Then she motioned me in. The same record player was spinning, something older this time, low and scratchy. We drank tea again, though neither of us really needed it. She told me her daughter was studying abroad. "She's 21, she said, eyes down. "Same age as you, probably." 23, I said. "Close enough." There was a small silence then, one that carried more weight than it should have. She stirred her tea even though there was nothing left to dissolve. She told me she used to teach literature at the community college, before she moved here, before everything quieted down. I didn't ask what everything was. I just listened, because her voice carried the kind of ache that doesn't need filling. When she finally looked up, her eyes softened. You remind me of someone I used to know. Always thinking too hard before saying anything. Maybe I just don't want to say the wrong thing, I said. She smiled faintly. There's no such thing as the right one either. The rain started again, softer this time, but steady. I helped her close the balcony window. The latch was stiff, so I leaned in beside her, both of us holding it at once. My hand brushed hers, and she froze, just for a breath. We didn't say anything. Didn't need to. Later, she showed me a photo of her daughter on the fridge, young, bright, smiling with her whole face. She hates when I call, Lila said. Says I sound sad even when I'm not. You don't sound sad, I said. She looked at me, like she didn't believe it but wanted to. You don't really know me. Maybe not. But I notice things. Like what? Like how you leave your tea bag in too long. Or how you keep the radio low, even when the room's too quiet. Her lips parted, like she wanted to reply, but instead she laughed, soft, nervous, real. I reached out to hand her the mug, my mug, but she didn't take it right away. Her fingers brushed mine as she did, barely, but I felt it like a current. When I left, she followed me to the door. I thought she'd say something, maybe goodnight. Instead, she reached up and fixed the collar of my jacket. It was nothing. It was everything. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. For a few weeks, it became routine. Not planned. Just a quiet pattern we both pretended not to notice. Sometimes she'd knock, saying she made too much soup. Sometimes I'd drop by, claiming my Wi-Fi was out again. It was never about soup or Wi-Fi. One evening, I brought over a book I thought she'd like, The Secret History. She took it, smiled a little. You think I haven't read this? I was hoping you'd pretend you hadn't, I said. She laughed, then caught herself, like laughter was something she wasn't supposed to allow. We sat on her couch. The rain was gone this time, replaced by a low hum of traffic. The light from her lamp fell across her hands, pale and still. She turned the book over in her lap, like she didn't know what to do with it. You're quiet today? I said. She shrugged. My daughter called. She sounded happy. That's good. Something in her tone didn't match the word. I wanted to ask more, but she looked away, so I didn't. A soft knock came at her door. Her friend, Marjorie, mid-50s, the kind of woman who notices everything. Lila stood quickly. Stay here, she whispered. From the couch, I could hear their voices, low, quick. Marjorie's tone, curious. Lila's, guarded. Then a pause. A lowered whisper. My name, barely audible. When the door closed again, Lila stayed facing it for a moment too long. She thinks you're my handyman, she said finally. Am I? She turned to look at me, eyes searching. Don't joke. I'm not, I said quieter now. I don't really know what I am to you. That landed harder than I meant it to. The silence after felt heavier than the rain ever did. She sat down again, farther this time. You're kind, she said eventually. That's enough. It wasn't, but I nodded anyway. Her phone buzzed. A message. She flipped it over, screen down. I should get back, I murmured. She didn't argue, but her hand lingered near mine on the coffee table. Just close enough to notice, not close enough to hold. Wait, she said suddenly. You forgot your book. I reached for it, and for a second, our fingers touched, skin against skin, neither of us moving away. She looked up, startled, like she'd just remembered something dangerous. Her breath hitched. Mine followed. Then she pulled her hand back, slow, deliberate. I shouldn't, she began. I know, I said. We stood there, two people pretending we hadn't just crossed a line we hadn't technically crossed. Outside, someone was laughing in the hallway. A door slammed. Reality, rushing back in. She smiled faintly, but her eyes looked tired. You should go before Marjorie starts another story. I nodded, stepped back, opened the door. She didn't stop me. But when I looked back, she was still standing there, holding the book, her thumb pressed between the pages like she couldn't decide whether to close it or keep reading. It was early evening when she asked if I wanted to walk. No reason. just a walk. We ended up at the park near the library, the one where the benches leaned slightly from age. The light was soft, that in-between hour where everything looks gentler than it feels. She was quiet, arms folded. I kept my hands in my pockets, trying not to sound too careful when I spoke. "How's your class?" I asked, meaning her volunteer work at the community center. "They're loud," she said. "I envy them. Being that loud without realizing it's a luxury." We sat on a bench. The air smelled faintly of wet grass. Somewhere behind us, kids were kicking a soccer ball, the sound oddly comforting. She glanced at me. "You didn't tell me you were looking for another place." I blinked. "I'm not. Marjorie said she heard you mention it. I might have said I was thinking about it." "I don't know." "You don't know?" Her voice softened, but her eyes didn't. "You say things like that too easily." I looked down at my shoes. I didn't think it mattered. Of course it matters. The words slipped out before she caught them. She sighed, leaned back, pressed her hands to her face like she wanted to take them back. I didn't know what to do with that kind of truth, the unplanned kind. When she spoke again, her voice was lower. "It's not supposed to matter. She hesitated. "You're young. You still think every connection means something permanent. And you don't." She smiled, small and sad. "I've learned better." I watched her thumb trace the rim of her sleeve, the way people do when they're trying to keep themselves steady. "You're scared," I said quietly. Her eyes met mine. "You should be too." For a while, neither of us spoke. The sound of the kids faded, replaced by wind moving through the trees. "I keep thinking about that night," I said finally, "when the lights went out." She didn't answer, but I saw her jaw tighten slightly, like she remembered exactly what I meant. I almost said something. I continued. "Something stupid. I'm glad I didn't." She turned toward me, a faint crease between her brows. "What would you have said?" I smiled, not the confident kind. The tired kind. That I liked being seen. That I hadn't realized how much I missed it. Her breath caught, almost imperceptibly. Then she looked away, pretending to adjust her scarf that didn't need adjusting. "You shouldn't say things like that," she whispered. "I didn't," I said. "Not then." Her hand, resting on the bench between us, twitched like it wanted to move. For a second, everything, the air, the sounds, the space between us, went very still. If she had turned her head an inch closer, the whole world might have changed. But she didn't. She just whispered, almost to herself, "What are we doing?" And I didn't have an answer. I didn't see her for almost 2 weeks. At first, I told myself she was just busy. Work, errands, the usual. But her blinds stayed closed, and the small light in her living room, the one she always left on, didn't come on anymore. I tried not to notice. Failed. I walked slower past her door, pretended to check my mail twice a day. Once, I thought I heard movement inside, a chair scraping, a faint cough. But when I knocked, there was only silence. I stopped trying after that. Mostly. Then one morning, there was a note taped to my door. No name, just a folded page, gone for a few days. "Don't worry. L." I read it too many times. The handwriting leaned slightly right, neat but uncertain, like she'd been in a hurry to stop thinking. A few days turned into 8. When she came back, it was Sunday. She looked different, or maybe just quieter. "Hey," I said. "You disappeared." "I went to visit my ex-husband," she said, like she was reciting a fact from a stranger's life. "Oh, he's remarried now. They have a son." She smiled, but it didn't reach anywhere near her eyes. Strange how you can live a whole part of your life, and then one day it belongs to someone else. I didn't know what to say to that. We sat at her table again, but it felt off. The air was thinner. Her record player stayed silent. "You could have told me," I said finally. "Why? It's not your burden." Maybe I wanted it to be. She looked at me sharply, not angry, just startled. Then she shook her head. "That's exactly the problem." Her tone was final in a way that scared me more than shouting would have. I left early that night. Didn't touch her mug, didn't look back. The next few days, I avoided her. Tried to reclaim the life I'd had before. The gym, cheap dinners, video calls that didn't mean anything. but everything felt muted, like soundproof glass between me and the world. Then she texted, "Lila, I left your book outside your door." The message was simple, too simple. I stared at it for a long time. Typed thanks and erased it. Typed can we talk and erased that, too. I went to the door anyway. The book was there, rain damp around the edges. Inside it, a scrap of paper used as a bookmark, a torn grocery receipt. I recognized her handwriting on the back. Some things are easier to return than others. I stood there, holding the book, unsure whether to laugh or break something. For days, I didn't text again, didn't knock, didn't look at her window, but I couldn't stop replaying the sound of her voice saying problem. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. It happened on a Thursday, the kind of day you forget as it's happening. Gray sky, damp air. The street smelled faintly of wet concrete and cheap detergent. I was coming back from work when I saw her outside, standing by the mailboxes. She didn't notice me at first. She was staring at a letter, unopened. Her hair was looser than usual, pulled back halfway, like she'd given up halfway through fixing it. "Hey," I said quietly. She looked up. "You've been avoiding me." I nodded. "You've been gone. Seems we're good at leaving things unfinished." We both stood there, pretending to sort mail we didn't care about. I could feel the weight of everything unsaid pressing against the walls between us. She spoke first. I went back to him to make sure I was done. And I am. But that doesn't mean I know what I'm doing now. I wanted to say I don't either. Instead, I said, "You don't have to." She smiled faintly, that tired kind of smile people give when they wish they could believe you. I followed her up to her door. The same door she'd once opened with that quiet warning, "I shouldn't let you in." This time, she didn't say it. She just stepped aside. Inside, her apartment was darker than I remembered. Curtains drawn. The air heavy with the faint scent of lemon soap. There were boxes near the couch, half packed, half forgotten. "You're moving?" I asked. "Maybe," she said. "I keep packing and unpacking. It's exhausting." She sat down, exhaled slowly. "I don't know how to be close to someone without losing something." "You won't lose me," I said before I could stop myself. Her eyes lifted, sharp, searching, almost sad. "You say that like you know what I've already lost." "I don't," I admitted. "But I know what I'm willing to risk." She didn't move, just looked at me, a long, quiet look that felt heavier than any touch. Then she reached out, barely brushing my wrist with her fingertips. "You shouldn't," she whispered. "Probably not." We stayed like that, a hand resting where it shouldn't, time stretching between two people who'd run out of excuses. She pulled her hand back first. "If this were 10 years ago," she said, "I'd probably say yes to all of it. And now I'm just trying not to hurt anyone who didn't ask for it." There was nothing else to say, not the kind of silence that begged for filling, the kind that finally understood itself. I stood. "Do you want me to go?" She looked at me for a long time, then shook her head slowly. "No, just sit a while." So I did. We didn't talk, didn't reach for each other. The clock ticked somewhere in the background, marking the seconds we weren't ruining. And when she finally said, "Okay," it wasn't permission. It was something gentler, the sound of two people accepting what couldn't be fixed but still mattered. It's been almost a year since that night, the one where neither of us said what we wanted to, but both of us stayed anyway. A lot has changed. The building feels quieter now. Marjorie moved to Florida. Someone new took her place, a man who always leaves his trash bins out too long. Lila still teases him under her breath, and I still pretend not to smile when she does. She didn't move away after all. Packed her boxes, then unpacked them again. Said she realized she didn't need a new city, just new hours. Now she teaches online in the mornings, waters her plants at exactly 8:47 a.m., and leaves her blinds half open so the light can find her. Sometimes I join her for coffee before work. She takes hers black now, says she's trying to simplify. I take mine with too much sugar, still pretending it balances the bitterness. We never called what happened between us anything. Maybe that's why it still feels real. No labels, no vows. Just a pattern we built carefully. Visits, shared silences, the quiet recognition that we fit into each other's days without needing permission. The other night, we walked to the same park where we once sat on that crooked bench. The one that used to tilt to the left. Someone had fixed it, sanded it down, repainted it. She laughed softly when she saw it. Even benches get second chances, she said. I looked at her. Do people? She didn't answer. Just slipped her hand into mine, like the question didn't need one. There are still moments when I catch her staring out the window, phone in hand, that faraway look. I don't ask who she's thinking of. Maybe her daughter. Maybe the years she thought were gone for good. But sometimes, she looks at me instead, and I know she's here now, not back then. That's enough. She still keeps my old mug, the one from that first night, though she never drinks from it. It just sits on the shelf, chipped at the rim, holding a few pins and a dried sprig of lavender. I once offered to throw it out. She said, some things you keep because they remind you not to start over too fast. We're not perfect. Some days we say too little. Some days, too much. But the noise in my head, the restless kind, has quieted. This morning, she opened her door before I even knocked. Coffee, she asked. Only if it's terrible, I said. It always is. And we both laughed, the soft, ordinary kind that only happens between two people who've already seen each other at their most unsure. When she handed me my mug, her fingers brushed mine. Brief. Familiar. Enough. I don't think I'll ever forget the first thing she said to me. I shouldn't let you in. And how? Even now, her door never really closes. Sparkles, did this story stay with you? What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next? The ones that ache a little, or the ones that heal slow?